Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day as we continue to have so many terrific conversations. This week, I knew this week was going to be a great week when I saw the list of guests. But as you can imagine, man, I keep getting reminded of these conversations I had with people like Roy Anderson and John Hairston and Jerry St. Pei and even George Schlegel, God rest his soul. When I first started this show, they said, okay, so when you run through the sort of this initial list of leaders, who are you going to have these long format conversations with? Isn't there a point where you're going to burn through the list? And I said, no, not at all. I fully expect it, actually, as we continue to have conversations for new leaders to emerge. And every time I get a wonderful new friend that I've met through this show, they're going to introduce me to other leaders. The truth is there are people of all walks of life in so many different roles. It could be an entrepreneur leading just a business development effort, that bringing new people into his company, doing great work. It could be a single person who's identified a gap in the community and decided to form some kind of volunteer effort to go satisfy that gap. It could be leaders of United Way or Goodwill Industries or some of the biggest companies in coastal Mississippi. So the bottom line is there's really no shortage of leaders to talk to. And, here we are, over 1,700 conversations into this show, and we're still every day, learning of wonderful, good leaders who are passionate about their business. In a recent conversation with Tish Williams, the executive director for the Hancock County Chamber, I was reminded of a conversation that Michael Sunderman and I had. You know him from South Mississippi Living and his gaming publications, and he's great to have on the show, incidentally. But he had talked about Hollywood Casino hosting the recent Gaming Hall of Fame meeting, also a golf tournament, and how well it went. And then Tish Williams also talked about how wonderful it is to work with the general manager at Hollywood. And we chatted that he would be a really good one to have on the show. So we got the contact information for Barry Regula and invited him to come on to the show. He also, in addition to Hollywood Casino, he also has responsibilities for Boomtown in Biloxi. And he's got a terrific background, which we're gonna work our way through. But he's one that is truly passionate about the business, and you will see why as we have this conversation today. Anyway, Barry, welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show.
Hey, thank you, Ricky. Thank you for the nice introduction.
It's great. Again, there's you see this, man. You're engaged in the community. You see so many wonderful leaders of all walks of life in so many different ways, trying to help build better communities. And I know that you're super committed to the community, but there's really no shortage of people that we can dive in and learn from, is there?
No, there's a lot of great people out there, whether you're in Hancock County or Harrison County, Jackson County, all up and down the coast, all up and down the state. Wherever you go, in my travels, made great community relationships in Louisiana, in New Orleans, in Shreveport, Bossier City, all throughout the state, Baton Rouge. And everywhere you go, there's more people out there who want to be involved and want to help and raise everybody up, because I think most good people know that all boats rise in a rising harbor.
Yeah. There's no. I believe that to the depths of my soul, and to some extent, I think that Katrina, which of course we're barreling toward the 20th anniversary, that Katrina, as bad as it was, it did create a lot of opportunity for us. And one of the opportunities that I recently shared with Richard Cross on his show was sort of these personal awarenesses that we came to, the importance of family and community and volunteerism, and what we saw in the heart and soul of Mississippians. To some extent, it's kind of our competitive advantage, man, when you think about it, the work that we've done to understand how to build capacity in our communities. You can never do enough of it, but we've made a lot of progress in that regard, haven't we?
Well, you learn resiliency, and I wasn't at ground zero during Katrina. I had a home here in Ocean Springs that got destroyed, but I was up in Bossier City watching, and we had a lot of people come up to Bossier City, and a bunch of us came down to do what we could do and help because I was from the community. But you build resiliency, and then you can count on that resiliency time and time again, because we saw it again after COVID, right? I mean, it was the same muscles being exercised, if you will. It was like we have a challenge, and a challenge like we've never seen before, and nobody knew exactly what to do in that particular situation either, right? But you had learned how to deal with crises. You'd learned how to count on who you could count on, and who you could take counsel with. You forged new connections with people, new people to ask, how do we deal with this thing? And you find out it's that resiliency and creativity and determination that carries you through no matter what it is that you're faced with. Whether it's BP oil spill. I mean, I was in New Orleans running Boomtown, New Orleans on the West Bank when the BP oil spill hit, and that changed things dramatically for businesses down there. I mean, the fishing industry, the oil and gas industry. I mean, those were our neighbors, and it was the same thing. It's like, are you flexible enough? Are you creative enough? Are you determined enough to work through whatever challenge it is that faces you?
Yeah, I think what we learned, and I think those are great examples, the COVID experience and the oil spill, Katrina. But what we learned is that, first of all, we know what resilience means, and it's the ability to bounce back, and it's the ability to work together, and it's the ability to dig deep and do things you never thought you were going to be able to do. I mean, I think it's one of the things we learned. The human capacity is way beyond anything we can imagine. The role that hope plays in all of that, being hopeful during it. And if you think about, as it relates to the gaming industry on the coast specifically, Mississippi Gulf Coast specifically, as it relates to the COVID, sort of innovation that took place, we were so quick to adjust, and supported by a governor that helped us do that. There were casinos around the globe that were interested in what Coastal Mississippi was doing. I mean, and I think, it's that, it's built into our DNA to be able to bounce back after tough situations. And I think that was a really good example that you used, but it's true. And, because we're here and we've experienced those things, we're stronger. And I think our ability to bounce back when the next big one hits, and there's going to be another one, man. You and I both know it. I think we're going to bounce back better and faster. Don't you?
Well, yeah. And I think that was the lesson learned. I mean, like you say, it's 20 years since Katrina, and there were other challenges before that. But you learn how to cope, and hope is a great thing, right? It's like the belief and the faith that tomorrow will be better than today. And as long as you put one foot in front of the other and do what needs to be done, tomorrow will be better than today. And when you talk about the response in Mississippi and Louisiana after COVID was our company, Penn National Gaming, has 42 properties across the country, from Maine to Las Vegas to Arizona. There were properties that were closed for 13 months after Katrina. Mississippi and Louisiana were up in 2 months. So the governmental response,
after COVID,
to help us get back open and get our people back to work. I mean, a lot of things depend on that kind of good civic partnership. That we're gonna deal with what we have to deal with, but it really helps when you have a governmental structure that can help you achieve what you want to achieve.
I want to take a step back, and we've got less than 2 minutes, so we're not going to dive super deep into this now. But when we get back on the other side, I want to talk about where you came from and where you grew up and where how did you get introduced to the gaming, arena. But what makes you passionate about your work? Well, let's end this segment with that answer.
I like to get things accomplished, but what I really like to see, people I'm working with get engaged and grow, and then be able to take it and run with it on their own. I think the thing I'm proudest of is throughout my career, the people I've worked with along the way, what they've managed to accomplish. It's incredible. I look at some of the teams we had. I look back and I go, this person's a vice president here. That person's a general manager there. This person's a corporate leader of something, and that it's so proud that those guys, they all figured it out, how to get teams motivated, how to get something accomplished, and then, adjust it, improve it, and go forward. And it's been really rewarding. And I think that floats my boat more than anything.
That's a great answer. Zig Ziglar once said, if you help people get what they want out of life, you'll get what you want out of life. And I think,
Exactly.
the work that the people who work for us and helping them achieve their goals that's very similar to the way I would have answered that in terms of looking back on my career. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Barry Regula. And we're gonna get into sort of where he came from and how did gaming get onto his radar screen. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I enjoy this show because we get to know people like Barry Regula, more deeply. And he's the general manager of the Hollywood Casino in Bay St. Louis, and then also Boomtown in Biloxi, and has a great career. We'll be kind of taking you through those steps. In fact, we're gonna break it all down. I want to know where he grew up and how did he get into the casino industry to begin with. But before we do, I think it might be a good idea for people who are not really familiar with Hollywood Casino and Boomtown, for him to give you a little sense of how he talks about those two casinos.
All right, Ricky. So Hollywood, we call it the first resort because it's really the first resort you encounter when you cross the Louisiana state line. And then in the history of gaming on the Gulf Coast, it really was the first resort to open in the state because it was the first property that encompassed gaming, a hotel, entertainment, a golf course. And we've worked to develop that since I've been back the last 3 years, adding a spa and salon, adding a Gurkha cigar lounge. We're working on a marina right now called the Holly Deck, which we're kicking off next week. A cocktail bar, the Palisades, just all kinds of things to make the experience more rich when you come and stay with us. So that's Hollywood. On the other end of the spectrum, there's Boomtown. Boomtown's a little engine that could, one of the first Biloxi properties and the first property on the Back Bay. No hotel, 31 years, probably the only floating barge casino in Biloxi right now, known for its buffet. We're about to bring back the bakery, which is a big hit with everybody. So it's that down-home locals kind of place, and we see the same faces day in and day out over there. So that's the kind of spectrum. I've got one thing on one end of the continuum and one thing on the other end.
It's interesting. You have a background that includes casino magic, and Roy Anderson, when he was on the show, we talked about the first meeting he had about building casino magic, and the goal being, a matter of months. And he said, goes down this long dirt road. He arrives at this place, and he was, delivered this really audacious goal about what they were going to accomplish. And Roy and his team delivered. But it's a fascinating story. I mean, it shows what you can do when you set goals high, doesn't it, Barry?
It does. Marlon Torgerson really was a pioneer there, and what he asked Roy and the other subcontractors to do for the price he was willing to pay for it was, people would have no idea, like to build Casino Magic and get it open on the budget they had. Right now, you couldn't build a limited service hotel. You couldn't build a Motel 6 for what the budget for Casino Magic was. So it was an amazing thing. Their biggest problem back in the day was they didn't have enough doors to get through. All the people coming to Bay St. Louis, Mississippi from Louisiana to gamble and so forth. And I joined shortly thereafter. So coming back to Hollywood is a homecoming for me because back in the day, I was at Casino Magic, and I was in the role of entertainment and special events manager. The best job in the world, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it is. I'm sure. So, Barry, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and my family moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin when I was about 10. So I really think of Milwaukee as my home, where I grew up, where I was raised, went to high school, and then attended the University of Wisconsin for college.
Yeah. So listen, interesting. When I was, Sun Herald was part of Knight Ridder, and then after that, part of McClatchy. But at one point, we were sister papers to the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And I went up to St. Paul and spent a couple of months there, actually, doing some training and understanding the newspaper business as part of my executive leadership. But one weekend, I rented a car because I wanted to go into Wisconsin. I wanted to go see this thing that I keep hearing about. Of course, Brett Favre being from Hancock County, it's kind of ironic that you're there now. For people who are from Wisconsin, better than most that he was so idolized because of his long tenure at Green Bay. And I remember stopping at a store in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, not long after I crossed over into Wisconsin from Minnesota. And there were these shrines to Brett Favre. I mean, the shrine,
Right.
and I was just blown away by it. But it was a beautiful. I had this great sense of Wisconsin, how pretty it was there, and
Oh yeah,
it's a great place to grow up, wasn't it?
it really was. And to go back to what you were talking about, imagine my surprise when I'm in Bay St. Louis and I'm listening to WTMJ out of Milwaukee, broadcasting Packers games. So it was kind of like, being here and being there at the same time. It was crazy. But and we threw a big tailgate party the year Brett and the Packers came down to New Orleans to win the Super Bowl. So, there were a lot of ties back and forth. Growing up in Wisconsin was great. Both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. Wisconsin's got 9,999. So they're
right.
Spent a lot of time on the water. Boating, fishing, water skiing. Every chance we got being outside, because it is the funny thing about Wisconsin though is it's miserable probably 7 months out of the year and wonderful 5 months out of the year, maybe 8 and 4.
Right. I mean, what's interesting is that people, when they think of Wisconsin, they think about frigid cold, but what they don't think about is during the spring and summer months, it's incredible. It's literally the tale of two worlds, to be honest with you. And you got to experience that, and you know it really well. So you get a degree in communications. Is not a surprise to me that you are such a great communicator.
Yeah, it was one of those degrees that kind of touches on everything, and I'm a firm believer that while many people do go to college or school for specific training, if you're going to be a CPA, you're gonna go to school for a business degree and then get the training you need to do that. But if you're not exactly sure which direction you're going to go, which was me in a nutshell, you want to have a good liberal arts education that helps you learn how to think, how to approach problems, how to resolve things. And then the glue of it, being able to work with, motivate, communicate with other people at all levels. I think that was the main benefit of that degree for me and what I was exposed to for that course of study.
Well, listen, I know this from having been a publisher and working closely with key leaders in the gaming industry for most of my career, certainly since it became legal here in coastal Mississippi, is that what I came to appreciate about the casino leaders is they dreamed big. They think big. They, lots of employees, they've seen it all. They're in a very competitive space, even more so today than even back then, with proliferation of gaming and online sports betting and all the things that are part of that. What that does when you're in a competitive situation like that is it forces you to sharpen your saw. You got to be on your game all the time. You got to be taking advantage of the latest technology. And now that AI is becoming a big thing, it's infiltrating the marketing capacity of your organization like never before. But you to be in the gaming business is to really understand business and how to succeed in business in a very competitive framework. But it's a great place to learn about surviving as a business person, isn't it?
It is, and I think you just really succinctly summarized the current challenge, right? What you said about the proliferation of gaming, the challenge. You can go. I think I read somewhere that you can drive maybe 90 minutes from any location in the United States and run into a casino now. So back 30 years ago or 35 years ago, it was Las Vegas and New Jersey, right? But now you can go anywhere, and so it's changed a lot. And what it used to be. You used to have sort of not really a monopoly, but you sort of had a little bit of an advantage that you had something that other people didn't have or whatever, and you had a location people traveled to for your specific thing. So you always had more demand than there was supply, and that's sort of normalized now, like any other business is. And you have to be creative, and there's never enough resources. There's never enough talent. There's never enough of anything. So what you have to do is say, if I look at everything, what is the one thing I can focus my remaining amount of time with? I always talk about the whirlwind and the time you have to improve something. So 80% of your time is taken up with hiring people, making the payroll, doing budgets, keeping the doors open, looking at customer service scores, answering phone calls, taking care of customers' issues.
Hey, Barry, let's do this. That's the 80%. We'll do the 20% on the other side. We're at the end of this segment, right, but we're visiting with Barry Regula, and we'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We're visiting with Barry Regula, who is the general manager for both the Hollywood Casino in Bay St. Louis and Boomtown in Biloxi. And just a quick side note, it's always interesting to see the conversations that happen off the air. I mean, to me, some of the most beneficial conversations we have are off the air. Sometimes we just ought to hit the record button and make that a separate show. Maybe we will actually come back and talk about some of those things. But anyway, when we went to break, though, Barry was talking about how 80% of his time is spent on certain activities, and he was getting to the point of 20%. But unfortunately, we just ran out of time. So I'm going to give him a chance to kind of finish his thought.
All right. And by the way, the title of your new show will be called Off the Air. And then you did.
Hey, no doubt.
When you hit the record button, the concept is your whirlwind of daily activities inhibits or restricts the amount of time you have to actually do real improvements and do the exciting, fun stuff. So you got to make sure that it makes it worthwhile, right? If only 20% of your time is going to be spent on building or improving or envisioning, then you got to make sure that one thing or two things moves the needle. So that's the approach we take. It's called the 4 disciplines of execution, where you decide what your wildly important goals are. In the case of Hollywood, it's a wildly important goal to have all the amenities, all the features, all the things that stand out and make your place unique and make the experience unique for the guests relative to your competition, because we are in competition. And then in Boomtown, it's what are the one or two things that make you the local's choice and the thing that's going to attract people coming over after work to play for a little while before they go home. Their opportunity to chill out for a minute and go and maybe a second stop when you're over at one of the bigger places. So that's the approach we take. Just make sure that you're focused on the one or two critical things that are going to move the needle with that limited resources you have. It's time, it's money, it's people. There's not enough to go around, so you better make it count when you do spend that precious capital.
So Barry, when you're with a big company that has a corporation that has locations across the United States, it does give you a perspective on what the competitive situation is and why it's important for us to focus on it. I think about if you go back and do the case study on Las Vegas, what's happened over the past several years is you've seen a very significant rise in non-gaming revenue. And so what's going to happen in coastal Mississippi, I have written extensively about this, that in coastal Mississippi, 78,000 direct and indirect jobs are in gaming and government being Stennis and CB Base and Keesler and Bollinger and Ingalls Shipbuilding, et cetera. That's 78,000 indirect and direct jobs. So in other words, we got a lot of eggs in a couple of baskets. If you just kind of isolate the gaming component for just a second, why has coastal Mississippi, now look, marketing costs might be up some, the kind of things that you're doing that are non-gaming related to bring, for example, having a great hotel in Bay St. Louis, having a signature golf course, having the RV park, having this new deck that you're building, all these amenities that you're adding are important to increasing the guest experience. The fact that we're a coastal community, that we've got beaches, that the people here are great to come visit. That's all our competitive advantage. And I think that's one of the reasons why the casino industry is going to continue to do well here. But eventually, we can't look to the gaming arena to grow jobs ultimately over the next 10 years. The reality is going to be, in order to grow in gaming, we're going to have to increase the number of operators here, some more, like, for example, Broadwater. When is Broadwater going to happen, and what's that going to look like, and what's going to happen in Biloxi? We've got 2 or 3 things, additionally that are teed up there. But the reality is the competition is great, as you and I discussed a few minutes ago, and the way we maintain our competitive advantage, is to focus on the things you just mentioned. And we have to do it great. We can't just be mediocre at it. We've got to be great at it. And a cumulative, effort across all the casino resorts of coastal Mississippi create an experience that people want to come back to time and time again. And since so many people come here, 80+% of the people who come here by car, we've got a real opportunity, don't we?
We do. It's a really rare and unique context that this particular gaming product exists in, and that's the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And one of the great privileges I have is to serve on the Tourism Commission, and it gives you that perspective. You see where everyone's coming from and what they're coming for, and the unique selling proposition that the Gulf Coast has. Now, that's competitive too, though. There's a lot of great destinations, whether it's Destin or the Smoky Mountains or all these other areas competing as well. So it works both ways. The gaming industry, we use the Gulf Coast as a selling point. The Gulf Coast uses gaming as a selling point. So, we're working hand in hand to try and get some synergy out of both things existing here. But unless you continue to innovate and develop those kind of amenities that people want and give them a new and fresh experience, because new places are popping up all the time, all over the place. And those will be the shiny new object, and those will be the new things that attract people. But my view, particularly in a property like Hollywood Gulf Coast, is I want to have something out there every several months that I can talk about that's new and impressive. Whether it's that or whether it's technology. One thing that delights people right now at our properties, we have 2 little robots, Holly and Woody. They go around and deliver water to people on the floor, and that just tickles them pink. They're like, they can't believe it. We have little water robots bringing you water on the floor. So anything like that I can do, I want to do it, and just keep something new and fun in front of people.
Hey, listen, coastal Mississippi, I've talked about it a lot on this show. For regular listeners, they know this, but when I was the head of the tourism planning effort for the Governor's Commission, that was one of our major recommendations. And when I left for Alabama, John Hairston kind of took the reins of that and drove forward getting this very first regional effort implemented. And it had a rough patch a couple of years ago, and I was all over it, talking about it. And one of the major things that we were pushing really hard for is that we needed to get major players engaged on that board of trustees. I mean, there were the thinking was a little bit too small. We didn't have good gaming representation there. I think we've got a board now that's moving in the right direction. We've got an executive of the organization that seems to be well aligned with the board of trustees. But it's good to see the noise go away and for us to stay focused on our competitive advantage and how with limited dollars we can make the best bang for our buck. But you've got to be pleased to be on that commission now.
I am, and I can tell you, I've been in other jurisdictions where we didn't have quite the same approach. There's no way in the marketplace out there that Hancock County has the money to make an impact, or Jackson County on its own has the money to make the impact, or any individual area or property within Harrison County. When you pool your money, you have a shot. It's very expensive to advertise in Atlanta. It's very expensive to advertise in Charlotte. When I was in Shreveport, Bossier City, it was like pulling teeth to get people to come together and try and compete against the giant casinos opening in Oklahoma, because we had to spend in the Dallas market. Nobody could afford it, and we made attempts to pull people together up there, but it's much better on the Gulf Coast. We've got buy-in for this model. And that's making a big difference. You can go to Chicago.
I know it is.
Go to St. Louis.
Yeah. You look at the money that coastal Mississippi has; it pales really in comparison to what the casinos have. But what it's doing though is helping frame our market as a regional destination and specific words behind it, and sort of that brand identity that then the casinos can kind of attach to. And when you look at the cumulative marketing that's happening around coastal Mississippi, it's phenomenal what's happening. I mean, at the end of the day, you're in the gaming business, but the truth is you're actually in the marketing business. Isn't that true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what something like Coastal does is it communicates more broadly the message and the context. And then we can market more specific to the types of people that we're looking to bring in. And then, you've got a couple of companies, you've got Caesars, you've got MGM, you've got Penn, you got Boyd. We have large networks of gaming people, and we can market our specific destination to those folks. Believe me, our Penn customers in Greektown or at Hollywood and Detroit, they love to come down here. in January or February. They love to come down in December if the Lions are playing at the Superdome. I can tell you that.
No, there's no doubt about it. We're visiting with Barry Regula, who is with Boomtown and Hollywood. He's the general manager over both of those properties. When we come back, we're kind of going to circle back one more time. I want to see how he got in the gaming business to begin with. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I want to tell my buddy Kyle for thanking. I want to thank him for bearing with us and hanging in there as we continue to do these offline conversations. It's always great to have a new guest like Barry Regula, so we get to know each other on the air and off the air, and it's been a thrill to get to know someone who had a great reputation for being connected. So in this segment, we're going to do two things in a very short period of time. I want to understand how he got into the gaming business. And then in the second half of this segment, I want to hear why he's so darn committed to the community, because I keep hearing that over and over again. But Barry, what is it that got you into the industry?
Well, I got in the industry and in the position I'm in a way that no one else has ever before or since. So back in Wisconsin, it's a little bit like your career with the newspapers. I had built a home satellite dish business for home satellite television. We were manufacturing satellite communication antennas in Midland, Wisconsin, and we had a couple of businesses installing. My customers were farmers who wanted to see me at 5 a.m. in the morning, and bar owners that wanted to see me at 12 at night. And then we had residential customers and so forth. And we were purchasing the electronics and putting these packages together. In the mid 80s, somewhere in there, satellite scrambling hit. Then the technology changed. Everything went from C-band to KU band, and then it went digital. You had your Echo Stars, your Dish Networks, people like that coming in. Basically blew up the business for me. And so there was this little point in time where I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I'm also a musician. My phone rings, and my good friend Billy DeVille, who actually lives down here, he's a terrific executive host over at Hard Rock. I think he's semi-retired now. Calls me up and says, "How would you like to move to Lake Tahoe and live like a king?" And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good right about now. We had a 38-week contract to do the American Superstar show at Harvey's at Lake Tahoe. Who wouldn't drop everything and run and go do that, right? So I got there, and then after playing 13 shows a week for a few weeks, losing my paycheck in the casino a couple of times, I figured maybe I should find something else to do alongside of this. And I met some people at Harvey's, and they were very open. They said, "Hey, if you want to come learn the business in your spare time, we're not going to pay you. Put in the time you want or whatever." And I started to pick some things up about slots and about marketing, and I would go with their team to Sacramento and promote the show and things like that. So that was kind of my first entree into it.
Interesting. What instrument do you play?
I play the bass. I'm more of a bass owner than a bass player right now, but I do get out there a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up, I played, I often say that when I started playing drums in 5th grade, it saved me. My mom was a piano teacher, so I learned to bang on the piano, but more self-taught than what she taught me. But drumming literally saved my life. I was obsessed with it for many, many years. So
yeah.
Music's important.
It's great. My security manager, Chad Barnett, has a band called Assumed Risk, and I'm like the backup bass player. When the main guy can't make it, I fill in here and there, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got a chance to play recently at a big fundraising event, and it was great to pick up the sticks again and be part of that effort. Hey, in just 1 minute, just give me your elevator speech on why you're so committed to the community.
Oh gosh, there's a lot of reasons. I think what mainly happened was I got involved, and it was almost like a slip and slide. You jump on and you can't stop. Or it's like you meet such great people that are doing great things, and you almost feel humble and not worthy in a way. And I think of the first time I went on a civic leader flight from Barksdale down to Fort Walton Beach, and we went down there and met all these great servicemen down there, and all these wonderful young people. And I had this vision of, my goodness, we always see is bad news and bad people on TV and in the paper and everywhere and online and all that. And I'm walking around, and it's all these really smart, really dedicated servicemen, and it's yes sir, no sir, and I'm like, oh my God, the future is bright after all. And then you learn about what impact, say, a Girls and Boys Club can have on inner city youth, and you go like, well, I got to go help with that. And then it's Vietnam vets. I got to go help with that. And then one day they asked me to be the first honorary commander of the 93rd Bomb Squadron at Barksdale Air Force Base. And that squadron's been around for 100 years. I'm like, it's been around for 100 years, and you're asking me, really? And that's what happened. Things just happen, and you just can't you just get caught up in it and meeting all the great people.
Yeah, and then you get connected with people like Tish Williams at the Hancock Chamber, and you see the great work that they're doing on so many fronts. It's just amazing. Hey, we're running out of time.
It's the connections and everybody rowing in the direction you want to go.
Yeah. Well, listen, Barry Regula, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you. We will have you back. There's a lot you and I are yet to talk about. But until then, cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Ricky. And Kyle, thank you too.
Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.